if you're just tuning in to find out if the cat survives, and that's all you want to know, then right off the bat, I can tell you that the cat does. I'm sorry about that. I think it cut a little too early to the credits. The cat does survive.
Yes!
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, or depending on what time you are watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. So I just got out of an IMAX screening of A Quiet Place, Day 1. And I must say, I was pretty excited for this movie. Apparently I was subconsciously so excited that I actually had a dream about this movie like a week or so ago, and it was pretty scary. I think I was in New York City, being chased by the monsters. So I think that just kind of heightened my excitement for this movie. And I must say, coming out of the theater, I was pretty pleasantly surprised. So let's talk about some things, and if you have not seen the movie and you don't want anything spoiled, well, I can tell you that there are spoilers ahead. So you may want to pause this or turn it off and come back to my beautiful face at a later time. So not on day 1, but maybe day 2, day 3, day 4, I don't know, but go check it out this weekend. If you like the first 2 movies, I think you'll enjoy this one as well. So this movie is a little bit different than the first 2. The first 2 kind of work together as almost one long movie. The one thing that's interesting about this movie and part 2 is that we get to see essentially day 1 in both movies, just in different locations. And what I really like about this movie, first off, is the setting, New York City. The first 2 movies are basically kind of farmhouse, rural areas. So to change it up and finally be able to see something different, I really liked. I love the look of New York City, especially this post-apocalyptic kind of feel it had to it. It reminded me of Cloverfield at times. It reminded me of Steven Spielberg's War of the Worlds at some times. That was another part that was pretty tense, was the scene where we see all these characters are starting to come out of the woodworks, basically. And then you realize they do little close-ups of like a person's wheelchair or somebody's luggage through the streets, and then you're like, oh, okay, this is not going to end up well for these characters. And then they do this really cool wide shot, and because I saw it in IMAX, it was, you're trying to pan through this whole thing, and then right in the corner, right before it happened, you see one of the creatures kind of coming down from the building, and I'm like, oh, there it is. So yeah, that scene was really well done. That was the one that kind of reminded me of the War of the Worlds, where you just see all these kind of just like shell-shocked people walking through the streets, have no idea what's going on. Probably one of the most thrilling scenes of the movie, I have to say, is the subway scene. It was probably the most tense part of the movie. Our main 2 leads, Lupita Nyong'o and Joseph Quinn, I thought they were fantastic. When I heard that Lupita Nyong'o was going to be the lead in this movie, totally on board. Think she's a fantastic actress. And of course, Joseph Quinn, now that he's a very familiar face, thank you, Stranger Things, I think he was maybe my favorite part of the movie as far as acting goes. Not to say anything against Lupita Nyong'o. This probably was not an easy role for either of them, because you're doing a lot of acting without speaking. And that is challenging. And both of them were able to convey so many emotions through just facial expressions. There's scenes where these characters are tearing up, whether it's a happy moment, a sad moment, and I'm just thinking like, yeah, these are some pretty good actors.
And I say actor, not actress, because the word actress is nonsensical.
We have a really cool scene with Joseph Quinn where he has to essentially retrieve the cat, and he comes across this almost, I guess it's the layer of these creatures. I thought that was really cool. That kind of expanded the universe a little bit, just to be able to see how these creatures kind of interact with each other and how they feed, essentially. Speaking of the cat, gotta talk about that darn cat for just a moment. Going into the movie, my sister and me pretty much are just thinking, all right, as long as they just don't die, I'll be pretty happy with the movie. As said in the beginning, the cat survives. And I actually really like the role that the cat plays throughout. It's mentioned that cat is a therapy cat. After the movie, or throughout the whole movie, I kept thinking, like, this cat has not meowed once. Like, how is that possible? But then I was thinking about it, and I don't know if this is even a thing. Please correct me if I'm wrong. She says it's a therapy cat. I wonder if therapy cats don't meow or don't really project a lot of noise because of their therapy cats. I don't know if that's a thing. That was my thought process as to why the cat doesn't meow once throughout the movie. So overall, I really did enjoy the movie. If I have to give a little bit of a nitpick or just something that I maybe would have liked to see done a little bit different, because it's day 1, I was hoping there might have been a little bit more explanation as to how these people know all this stuff about these creatures. When we saw the original movie, it's already like a year later after all this had started. So you figured, okay, it's been a year. They've already gathered enough information. Okay, that's fine. In this one, because it's day 1, you're going to see all these people have to figure all this stuff out as far as they can't see, they can only hear you. And it's not really explained at all. Essentially, the main girl, Lupita Nyong'o, she gets knocked out at some point and then she comes to, and it's probably like later in the day. So I'm thinking that that time in between she being knocked out is when these characters were able to kind of figure out these things. It's never really explained how they know already. Would you not assume these characters could see you unless there's an actual scene of a character maybe standing there frozen and then the creature can't see them? I thought there could have been more to explain how these people know how to act around these creatures. And that would be my one sort of nitpick or criticism of the movie. And then finally, just to go into the ending, I absolutely love this movie's ending. So, you know that the Lupita Nyong'o character, she is sick. The movie's introduction is her in a hospice, so you know that she's not doing well. And I kind of like that for her character because while all the survivors are trying to go south to get to these safety boats, her whole mission is she just wants to go home to Harlem, so she's going to go north. Normally, if nothing was wrong with her, you'd be thinking like, okay, why is your motivation just to go get pizza? But because she is already dying, she knows that there's really no saving her. So she just wants to do what she wants to do. And Joseph Quinn decides that he's just along for the ride. But I did like that reasoning where it's just, she knows she doesn't have that much time. The final shot of this movie I loved so much. It kind of reminded me of the first movie, how that very iconic final shot that goes right in the credits. This movie has a similar shot that when it happened, I was like, oh, okay, I'm on board. I really like that. This movie essentially does set up what is going to be going on, and I would say A Quiet Place 2, because the one connection or the bridge between the first two movies and this movie is the character of Henry, played by, oh goodness, how do you pronounce the name? Jimon Huso?
Close enough.
But yes, he is in Quiet Place 2. He's in this movie. So you figure, you see him at the end of the movie on this boat going somewhere. You figured that he's going to where those survivors were in part 2. And Joseph Quinn is on the boat with them. So now you're thinking he may have been part of that group in the second one. So that's my take on A Quiet Place Day 1. Or should I say A Quiet Place Day 1 through 3 or 4? Because it kind of takes place over the course of a few days. All right. For some reason, I'm in the mood for pizza.
Awesome.